Welcome back to Sunday Sentiments. Today, our topic will be about the Atlanta, Georgia massage parlor shootings. Um, and just a little bit of background. On the 16th of March this year, there was several shootings in Atlanta, Georgia, massage parlors and spas. 8 people were killed, 6 of whom were Asian women. The shooter, 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long, was arrested a few hours after the shooting and is currently being held without bail. Now, the reason that this story has gained so much more controversial attention in the media is because of the response from the Cherokee County Sheriff's Department. Captain Jay Baker said that the shooter had a bad day and this is what he did. He also stated in the official press conference about the shooting that, quote, he apparently has an issue, what he considers a sex addiction, and sees these locations as something that allows him to go to these places, and it's a temptation for him that he wanted to eliminate. People were obviously very upset about this statement because it just completely diminishes what happened to these poor people that were killed. And also just puts the blame on the women themselves, in this case with the sex addiction thing, and also blaming it on a mental disorder. So people went looking into this captain's social media and found a post from March 30th last year where he was promoting some t-shirts that said COVID-19 imported virus from China. And he was saying that people should place their orders while they still last with a smiley face. This whole Facebook page was deleted after because of all the negative attention that it was getting. And a clinical psychologist and author of the book, The Myth of Sex Addiction, David Ley, said that the American Psychiatric Association doesn't recognize sex addiction as an actual mental disorder. And that while some people struggle to control their sexual behaviors, it's often linked to other recognized disorders and moral views about sexuality. Specifically, Robert Aaron Long, he was described as one of his old classmates as being very quiet, very nice, and very Christian because he brought his Bible to school every single day. And that, once again, as they usually say in these kinds of cases, we don't know what happened to him, that he used to be so nice and we don't know what flipped that made him commit this heinous crime. Once again, putting the blame on something else. The general lack of actual responsibility giving to the actual shooter has caused people to be very outraged. Also, because of the increased hate crimes against Asian Americans right now going up very high, it has also sparked a lot of controversy, and a lot of people have been talking about this specific shooting with the hashtag #StopAsianHate. Now, the question that I wanted to ask the people on this panel specifically was, well, we don't have any, I don't think we have Asian people in this podcast right now, but would you think that this is a hate crime, and what are your general opinions on the shooting themselves and also the response from the sheriff's department? Jamila?
Yeah, so I wanted to say that this, yes, is a hate crime, and also it is on a lot that topic of sexualization. Hear me?
Your connection is a
Oh,
little bit.
can you hear me properly now? Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the sexualization of Asian women, because usually when in things like TV shows or even anime and stuff, they always portray, either Japanese, Chinese, or even South Korean women as being very weak, fragile, and they, obey men. So he thought that he would go there and do that to them because of this stereotype on these women. And then the fact that the guy had the audacity to say that he has a sex addiction, it's just weird. I don't understand why you would put it on that, he still went and killed people. Like, they're dead. Who cares if he had a sex addiction? They're dead. Anyway, yeah.
I definitely agree with you on the fact about the over sexualization of Asian women and women of color in general. They're seen as exotic and very tempting. And like they're using their seduction, which is also seems to be what the police is insinuating in this case. That because he has the sex addiction, they were temptations. So he just had to eliminate them as a threat to him as a good Christian man, which I don't get why they had to mention that either, that he was Christian, because this doesn't really like put forth his very Christian beliefs by murdering people for some odd reason. Keshi?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I've been looking at this case, and some people were saying that this cannot be called, he's not actually being accused of a hate crime, but of murder. And people say this is because if you look into his history, he doesn't have a history of hate against Asians, to the contrary. But I was thinking, okay, if you remove that aspect of hate, racial hate, when you go and eliminate women, should not that be considered a hate crime? Why does a hate crime have to be only regarding race? He hated women, he shot them because, as according to what he said, he has a sex addiction that is in conflict with his religious beliefs. So he was actually saving other men by going to kill those women so that they are not tempted by these massage parlor workers, which apparently there has been some sort of talk of prostitution from those places. The point being, whether there are people are practicing prostitution there or not, that he goes to kill women to help fellow men, that is a hate crime, in my opinion. It doesn't matter if it was killing Asians or what. He killed women, and that should be considered a hate crime.
Definitely. Also, the thing that you were stating before about there being suspicions about there being prostitution in this place, which a lot of massage parlors, for some reason, have that reputation about giving a happy ending. The I believe she was the mayor, said that none of the massage parlors had any like police investigations done other than stuff about small like petty theft and stuff like that. So they were just saying like you can't put the like she even said that you shouldn't blame the victims for what happened and that this wasn't their fault. So saying that he had a sex addiction, he was just trying to eliminate the cause, is just putting the blame on them instead of what he was doing. Sarah?
I want to give 2 points from a psychologist part. So first, the sexual addictions, as you said, are not considered a disorder. And when it's apart from a disorder that can become something that hard and that dangerous, it's sometimes already diagnosed, because when this kind of disorders are changing your life. So there's no way that this man had a disorder that, for example, the bipolar disease, have some sexual addictions or some things like that in some states. That's right, but there's no way that this sexual addiction have a link, a connection with this crime in that case, because he's not diagnosed. So this is just stupid to say it's a disorder. It's so easy to say you have a disorder, you're not right, and to blame something else. So that's not the point. And another point I want to say, it's when someone is killing another people, their mind are not okay in any point. So obviously there's something bad. That's a psychotic moment. That's a psychotic attack. So usually when we study the psychotic moments, we notice that this people obsession, this people mind, it's getting radical. So if he had this target, he went to this place, it's a hate crime, because it's something that was before in his mind. The target was in his mind. but right now he's not okay. He had an psychotic attack, so he did it. That's why he did it. Yes, but this was in his mind. It's not a psychotic thing. It's not a thing that comes one moment, you do it and you forget it. That's not the way it works. So of course this is a hate crime, and they had to really, really punish him in a big way, not just blaming it. It's something psychotic. No one that kills it have a healthy mind, you know. So of course this is a hate crime, and he had these feelings before and not just because of that moment. Thank you.
I definitely agree with your points that, first of all, putting the blame on a mental disorder that isn't proved and isn't recognized by a lot of associations with psychiatry and like working with the mind, they don't recognize sex addiction as in itself being a mental disorder. And I feel like there's also a pattern that you start to notice here if you study crimes that are committed by white men. A lot of the headlines say stuff like, oh, he had a mental disorder, he was kind of crazy, had something going on. They always do this as an excuse to say, oh, but it wasn't him, he just had something wrong. Always trying to downplay the actual severity of the crimes that they committed. Shira?
I was going to follow up on what you're saying, because I think people don't like to call a spade, especially like in America. If it was a Muslim who had done that, would have called it terrorism immediately. Now this is a white guy, and of course, as you know, we're not against any race. Let me say a non-Muslim man. Suddenly, sex addiction, he had some issues or whatever. But you can see that these shootings are also motivated by his religious beliefs. Just the same as the Islamists. There's no difference. And then he just goes and shoots people, and he almost, people try to justify what he did. It is terrorism, domestic terrorism, racial terrorism, but let it be called what it is, and not try to justify or try to give excuses for what he did. It should be taken with the same seriousness as other forms of terrorism. That's what I think. And I think America should really wake up to that.
Definitely. You're very correct. I feel like they have this problem with not being able to label white domestic terrorists as actual terrorists. Like, if you guys remember the Las Vegas shooting in 2017, it was the most horrific one, and 58 people were killed and 489 were wounded at this concert. But they still refused to call this man a terrorist, and they kept insisting that he had something mentally going on. That was the reason that he committed this crime. Even with like almost 500 people injured and like 58 dead, they still refused to acknowledge it for what it was. Shiko, next.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just agreeing with everyone that at the end of the day, it should be either a hate crime, as one of the other panelists has said, or it should come under domestic terrorism. Now, the definition of terrorism is the use of threat or action to intimidate the public, and it must be for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. So there you have it, ideological cause or religious reason. So why are they beating around the bush? As Sarah said, usually when there's a psychological issue, it doesn't just pop up like in isolation. It would have been flagged from before, and it would be known that he's already suffering from a mental health issue. So this is just a get out clause. He's trying to get away with it by trying to blame his actions on sex addiction, but it is what it is. It's either terrorism or it's a hate crime, and he needs to be tried accordingly.
Definitely. I feel like generally the news media, there's a lot of these things like excuses happening for people. And there were even some media, I don't remember specifically which one, but there was some that was saying that it wasn't even a mass shooting because there weren't enough people killed. Like, according to the FBI, the definition of a mass shooting is 3 or more people killed or shot in general in a public place, which 8 people were killed in this, with more people wounded in general. And I don't even know what to say. It's just they keep putting down these things as if they're not part of a bigger issue. Because a lot of these people, like white men, do know that they will most likely get away with it, or at least with a lesser charge than if they were a person of color, or specifically a Muslim man, because they would be put away so quickly if they had the opportunity to. Kiriga?
Okay, I was thinking that even in this, most of these cases, that kind of person gets away free. If it was other kind of people, other ethnicities, they would probably gun them, I can't speak today, I'm very tired. They would probably gun them down if it was someone of another ethnicity, because we've seen that several times where a mass shooting happens, done by a particular ethnicity, and somehow they actually get the guy, arrest him without having even, you know, he doesn't even have one bullet on him. But then if it's someone else, you know, someone, they will be taken in a body bag. So once again, and I'm not talking about whether he was found on the spot or not, when they go to apprehend that kind of person, they normally end up killing some particular kinds of people, and then some particular ones get to be arrested. So it's actually interesting, the excuses that are given and that he's taken in custody. Yeah.
Definitely. Specifically, also other like stories about this specific man has come out recently. Also, with apparently the church removing him from their membership because he was apparently still a member of this Baptist church. Up to the time of the shooting, he was still a member, and they ended up removing him. And they even said in a statement, no blame can be placed upon the victim. He alone is responsible for his evil actions and desires. The women that he solicited for sexual acts are not responsible for his perverse desires, nor do they bear any blame in these murders. These actions are the result of a sinful heart and a depraved mind for which Aaron is completely responsible. So even in this, you can even though the media won't take responsibility for it, this church did in itself say that this is his fault. He can't put the victims in the position of the blame because they weren't to blame in this specific instance. Did anybody else have a point to be made right now? Thank you all for joining us for this riveting discussion about the Georgia massage parlor shootings. Please like the video and subscribe to the Four Wings YouTube channel. Remember to turn on your notifications to know when we upload new content. Our next video will then be hosted by the lovely Catherine. Thank you for watching.